Hello and welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. I'm Joe Maxson. I was the first host to Oklahoma Gardening back in 1975. At that time it was a very different show than it is now. We were inside in a studio. Everything we used in the show was carried down to the studio by van. We unloaded, decorated the studio, and then did the show, and then drove back to Stillwater and unloaded. Sometimes we'd shoot two shows a day. Normally we'd just shoot one. But we did several different setups on how we'd do it. I did the show by myself a few times. Then we started having interviews with different people, and made a few trips out to different locations where we could see particular situations. But needless to say, we did not have all the stuff that you see here now. We had very limited items to work with, but we did get off to a start, and I'd like to compliment the host that's been there since I have for the great job they've done in making the Oklahoma Gardening the show that it is. I live in Durant, Oklahoma now. We moved down here for the fishing, and which we didn't get to do as much of as I thought I would, but still enjoy the lake once in a while. We are still active in plants. I have, since retirement, I've been in a pretty good sized greenhouse operation, and now we're down to a hobby greenhouse in the backyard. We grow a few vegetables in containers, and we're going to show you a little bit about that and suggest some things that you might be interested in doing in your backyard. First thing I want to show you back here is this is the back part of our yard, a place about probably 40 feet by 30 feet, and we've got a small greenhouse. And right now let's talk about the cold frame. I believe every family that enjoys vegetables and enjoys being outside and fiddling with plants should have a cold frame. We can put lettuce and spinach in this cold frame, and it'll keep it, lettuce and spinach both good, to up to 5 or 10 days of 5-degree weather in the wintertime, and then the lettuce will love it. Now, if it was outside, away from the greenhouse, we would berm up with soil up to the almost the top of the greenhouse in order to take care of the cold weather. And then our covering is 2x2 frame, covered with polyethylene, and that can be taken off and must be taken off on days when the sun comes out, because it will get too hot for the lettuce and spinach. But it's a great way to have fresh salad crops during the wintertime. Now let's go into the greenhouse, and we'll talk a few things about this. Now this greenhouse it's been here for about 15 years. The dimensions are 20 by 14, and it's covered with a double layer of ultraviolet resistant polyurethane. And that'll give you several years use without having to replace it. And you can even replace the top layer at times and then leave the inner layer, and it works pretty good that way. The inner layer here has been on this greenhouse for 15 years. Just last year we replaced the outer layer, so not too much problem with replacing the plastic there. The things we need to talk about is shade. Depending on what kind of plants you're going to grow, you may need some shade. On the other hand, you may want to use plants that are in full sun. But one of the important things with a plant grower, whether you're a greenhouse or whatever, is propagating, starting new plants. And we love to do that. But now, the one thing to remember, if you're propagating or have a mist system in your home greenhouse, you have to be careful about other plants that you put in, because even though you're propagating in one corner, the mist is in one corner, your humidity is going to be very high throughout the greenhouse. For instance, tomatoes is a great greenhouse crop, but if you've got a propagation system going with mist, tomatoes don't work because the humidity is too high. So let's look at what you're going to need for a propagation area. Of course, the main thing in a propagation area is the mist system. You can get a timer for $300 or less that'll let you run the mist system for so many seconds every so many minutes, and it works real well. You can get one or you can get 4 or 5 zones. Larger zones, more money. You also need a regulator to put on it in order to operate the time clock. In other words, the time clock operates the solenoid that lets the water through. And then when you get through the solenoid, you go through a piping system with emitters at the top of the pipes, depending on what kind of emitters you use. And as I said, the water comes on so many seconds, so many minutes, depending on the weather outside and the plants you're propagating. Now, another thing you need to worry about, you want the humidity as high as possible in here. This is my grandson, Braden, and he's going to help me show you here what we do for this. Braden, stand right over there if you will, and let's hold this up. We just put down plastic windows for the duration of the propagation system. If we wanted to, we could put plastic across here to stop it off. But here it works fine. Then when you're through with your propagation season and you want to use a greenhouse for other things, you can just take this down, roll it up, put it away for the next season, and then use this as a regular plant system. Now, another thing very important to the greenhouse during the wintertime is the heating system. Here we've got a heating system that's on a bench up out of the way. And probably the best thing you can do is get a greenhouse supply company to tell you how much greenhouse heat and fan you're going to need. You also need the vents to let in air when your fan comes on. These can be automatic, operates with the fan, or they can just be one louvered that the fan itself opens up and lets the air in. Another item that we need is a little fan to blow the air, a circulating fan to blow the air between the 2 layers of plastic. The 2 layers of plastic with air between them, about 2 inches apart, will save you about 30% on your heating and cooling costs. So that's a must to have. And then you've got the fan, which you, again, check with your greenhouse supply company and let them tell you what size fan. A little house like this, you can't have a large fan, it'll pull the plastic off. But that's pretty well the essence of the different things that you need to make a small hobby greenhouse work. But just remember this, no matter what size greenhouse you build, it ain't big enough. At one time we had 6 greenhouses that were 30 feet wide and 100 foot long, and they were not big enough.